Hey guys, welcome to this Ohio farmhouse. It's May and our weather is just now starting to cooperate. It has been really cold and dreary and just raining, and to the point where I couldn't even put my plants outside to start hardening them off. We're really close to our actual plant dates here in Northwest Ohio, and so I really want to get things going, but all of these plants behind me can't be moved outside and planted until they're hardened off properly. Now I wanted to make sure that I explain this process to you because in the past I have sold some of my plant starts to friends and they'll take them home and they set them outside and they have killed their plants or they have forgotten about them. So I want to show you just how you harden off your plants. It's really simple, but it is so easy, especially as a busy mom, to forget what you're doing and go do something else and completely forget that your beautiful little plants are outside dying in the elements. So, very first tip is to set a timer. I kid you not, you think you're going to remember and you're not. You just don't do it. I forget every single time and hours could go by and I'm like, oh my gosh, they look like they're drooping and they need water and the wind has hurt them or whatever. So set a timer is the very first thing. Put a reminder on your phone, hey, set a timer for an hour from now. Now, I'm gonna start moving all of these plants. So the sun is out today a bit, but it's a cloudy day and that's really what you're looking for. You don't want it to be scorching, bright sun when you take those seedlings out because their leaves are very delicate. And so you want to ease them into the world outdoors. And so I'm going to start moving all of these outside, and this is much easier to do if you have a greenhouse. So eventually I'm hoping that's where I'm going to be growing all of my seed starts. But for now, they're starting in my house, and so they've been in here in this controlled environment the whole time, and so I just really need to get them outside so that when the days are changing and actually warm enough that they can go into the soil and they're ready to go. Okay, look at this. This is kind of ridiculous. I typically would transplant these into something much larger, but I haven't done that this time because we're so close to our planting dates and I don't want to take all of the time that it takes to transplant things when I am just probably a week or so out from being able to put them outdoors. So we're holding on to those little tiny pods that they're in, and they're doing okay so far. I had a day recently where they're starting to droop and not look very good. And so some of those I did go ahead and put those into a bigger cup and gave them a little bit of plant food and some extra water and new soil, and they perked right up and they're doing beautifully. But now it's time to start taking everything outside. Okay, so once I have all these outside, I'm going to go ahead and set this timer, and I'm going to only allow mine to be out here the very first time for about an hour. That's because in Northwest Ohio where I am, we have a lot of wind. That wind gets too intense for these little seedlings, and I sometimes will start out by putting a fan on them indoors, cracking that window open, but my placement is a little bit odd this year of where I have my shelf. And so it didn't really lend itself to that very easily this time. And so I'm just going to slowly introduce them. It's mostly the wind that I'm worried about out here because they will dry out and it's just too much force for them. So I give it about an hour, and then they're gonna go right back inside and go back under the grow lights, and I'll give them a drink of water. The next day, they're gonna go outside maybe for 2 hours. And so each day, that's going to prolong a little bit longer, and they're gonna get a little bit more used to being outside where it's just crazy and unpredictable for the most part. So we're finally seeing some warmer days. Really, it's just been cold and miserable recently, to be honest. And so have normally have all of my plants outside by now, and we're transitioning into our growing, and it's been a slower start this year because the weather just hasn't allowed for that. And so when you walk out and it just takes your breath away because it's so windy and you want to close the door right back up, that's not when you want to be hardening off all of your little seedlings. So I'm going to keep moving more stuff out here, and they're going to sit and they're going to do their thing. And then we're going to head over to the garden, and I'm going to show you what's going into the ground. Right now, I'm planting a few different types of things and different varieties, and so I'm going to take you out to the garden with me as well. Now, when you go to plant your tomatoes, and this goes for peppers too, you want to make sure that your soil is warm enough. It really needs to be about 60 degrees. And then your air temperature at night shouldn't drop down below about 50 degrees. They can technically, if they have been hardened off properly, they should be able to handle temperatures that go a little bit lower than 50. Some people will say even down to 40. I just don't trust that because of our heavy winds that we have here. It's just really kind of extreme weather patterns. So I stick to 50 degrees. It makes me feel a little bit more confident and know that all of my hard work inside isn't going to be wasted. Now, our meteorologist just was on Facebook recently and informed us that in the past, we have actually had late frost dates all the way up until the middle of June, and I about died. I thought to myself, you know, if that were the case in my lifetime, my channel name might become like This South Carolina Farmhouse. I don't know if I can handle it if it's freezing still into June, but that's just, I hope that we never experience that in my lifetime. So I'm gonna start putting a lot of seeds in the ground this weekend because they'll do just fine germinating. It's plenty warm at this point for that to happen. I will hold off probably another week after that to transplant my tomatoes and my peppers outside. So this entire time, I'm going to be hardening them off a little bit more each day and work up their tolerance until they are outside overnight, all day long in their containers sitting on my porch. So make sure you don't have any animals because I have had that happen. We actually just on Sunday after church purchased a cherry tree, which I've been wanting. Brought it home, got it out of the van, set it there, went inside to start making lunch, looked out the window and one of our goats had escaped and stripped all of the leaves off of my cherry tree. I mean, within 15 minutes of us getting home. I was so mad at this goat. Goats push me over my limit sometimes. So I'm hoping that my tree's not dead and that it will survive and can make its way into the orchard. But right now it looks like a stick. And so I wasn't very thrilled. So right now I'm going to start. I have 4 raised beds behind me. 2 of them are already completely planted out with lettuce and carrots. The next one, I'm going to really focus on putting herbs in here. I want a variety of herbs that I can use for both healing purposes, for medicinal purposes, and also to make some teas and salves. So this bed is just going to be packed full of all kinds of different herbs. And so I have several that are going inside, but I'm also going to put some seed in the ground so that I can kind of vary their growth and hopefully get more. I only started a handful inside, and so I've made some decisions since then about what I want my end product to be, and so there are going to be more added in here than what I have started myself. I'm gonna get to work, but this bed behind me has settled quite a bit, the soil has, and so I'm going to start bringing in some good compost and layer that on the top here, not only so that I raise up the level, but to give it some extra nutrients so that I'm sure that all of my things that I'm putting in here are going to have the nutrition that they need. My plants are really doing well. It's been about 2 hours probably at this point. They're holding up well to the heat, and the sun is out, so they're really doing well so far, but I'm gonna keep an eye on them. They're gonna be heading back inside before too long, just to make sure that I'm not overexposing them or stressing them out in any way. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time on This Ohio Farmhouse. And remember, your home is your mission field.